Hello, welcome. Post-Christmas. Christmas is gone and done. That was great. Always takes me a while to get back up after Christmas. I don't know if that's part of being a freelancer, part of that sort of self-employed situation, part of the break. You know, you work on so many different projects and ideas that when you do stop, it's really, really nice. It takes a while. But coming back off holidays, I don't really have many holidays. And I like a short break, 2 or 3 days. But, you know, Christmas will take a couple of weeks and, get back up and going. Saying that, though, I've been busy. I've been editing. I'm very close now to my kitchen sink drama to be in its rough edit stage. Every scene completed to a rough edit. So today, it's about film directors. There'll be a few of these, but I started one and then veered into this one instead. So I started a thing on filmmakers' frustration or that kind of feeling or happiness. So today I'm going to look at film directors and look at something about why we look for laurels. Why is it a thing that we are so interested in getting our laurels? So, you know, we can be taken advantage of by film festivals, no end of that, and spend a fair bit of money or chase the money. And part of it is chasing audience, of course. Part of it is finding an audience, of course. But there's some stuff here that really, it wasn't till I got into looking at this in detail for this podcast that this is good information to me. This is a nice way of framing it. Now, I came across this stuff about 4 or 5 years ago. It was first out in 2014, 2015. And looking at a guy called Pierre Bourdieu, who was a sociologist. And the thing about this is that this fella has looked into lots of different organizations and lots of different models of society. And then some other researchers picked it up to do with Hollywood. So it's made a very interesting thing. I can hear a jet plane, so I'll book that into reference for later. Can anybody else hear a jet plane? I don't know. Pierre Bourdieu, sociologist, looking at how society treats other society, and he has a lovely model of this. It's basically the in crowd, so we'll come to that later. But first of all, I arranged everything into a PowerPoint because I think that sort of makes sense for me. It makes sense for me to just sort of try and control the thoughts and the direction. So if you're just listening, don't worry. This is going to be very geared towards just listening. The PowerPoint is as much for my notes as anything else. So we have an article here. All of these references will be in the metadata for the RSS feed, or get onto the YouTube channel and you'll see it easily there, depending on what your system does. Insiders, outsiders, and the struggle for consecration in cultural fields. Now, this is what this is about. This is a thing called a core-periphery perspective. A core-periphery perspective. So this is what Pierre Bourdieu invented, discovered, researched, analysed, noticed, whatever you want to call it, that there are these structures of people and organisations and fields, in a sense, you know, approaches, fields, spheres of activity, a core periphery. So there's a core activity and activists, and then on the outside there's the periphery. So this becomes really interesting, especially when these people, Cattani, Simone Ferriani, and Paul Allison, they look at Hollywood. Now that's cool. That's cool for us. Now we're looking 2014, 2015, over 10 years ago. Hey, Mal, it's all out of date. I'm not so sure. And even if it is, it's an interesting journey. I'll try and get it to half an hour. But it's an interesting journey. And a different way of looking at this thing about film festivals. Why are we mad for film festivals? Why am I mad for film festivals? Why, when I started making the feature films, 2016, 2017, it's like, whoa, I must get some laurels. Always looking for laurels. We're looking for that consecration, which is a lovely word in itself, is it not? Insiders, outsiders, and the struggle for consecration in cultural fields, a core-periphery perspective. So there are other perspectives, of course, to put on this, but we look at this struggle for consecration. And the point is, surely the point, as a film director, this consecration is about attention. This crossover, we think of festivals, oh, we want the laurels. No, we're trying to get an audience for that, aren't we? And we're trying to get some attention from somebody who consecrates us, which says, this film is worth watching. This director, this filmmaker, these people are worth watching. Go check out their film. Whether that's in genres and horrors and music vids or anything like that, or whether it's in improvised drama stuff like me, or some sort of like art movement-y thing, or whether it's just black cinema, particularly vibrant and powerful. So it's all a field, it's all a cultural field. And within that, there is this core and periphery. So let's have a look, see what they're saying. So I'll read this abstract out. You see, the thing with academic documents, I'm reading them so you don't have to. I'm reading them because I was doing a PhD for a few years. I came across a lot of these and really got in the habit. I don't want to lose that habit. I want to carry on, which is why I'm doing the podcast. So I enjoyed this habit. So here's the abstract. For every academic document in a journal, which you can find online very easily, you at least get the abstract. You might not be able to see the whole thing for free, but you can see the abstract, which is basically a summary at the beginning, a premise perhaps, might be for those film people. So, building on recent research, emphasizing how legitimacy depends on consensus among audiences about candidates' characteristics and activities, we examine the relationship between cultural producers, brackets, candidates, their cultural producers' position in the social structure, and the consecration of their creative work by relevant audiences. So we are mixing up here already. We are mixing up the sense of consecration with the audience. And these academics, these sociologists, are in no doubt that this is a real thing. And to me, I find that interesting because nobody as a film director has ever said, hey, you know, this thing about film festivals, it's all about consecration and about core periphery and about cultural producers' position in the social structure. You know, who said that before? But it is very interesting. We argue that the outcome of this process of evaluation in any cultural field, whether in art or science, is a function of, one, it's a function of the candidate's embeddedness within the field, like how embedded, how core, functional, how in are you in the in crowd in the field, and two, the type of audience. And this is very fascinating. So the evaluation of your work as a film director, according to these researchers, it's partly to do with how core you are, how close to the core of the field are you. And now for myself, as some free-range film director doing my own thing in Hull, Yorkshire, not core, not in London, not in Hollywood, not in New York, not in Paris, not in Amsterdam, not in even those kind of social links online particularly. So not essentially core. So how core am I before I can get attention and consecration for my work? How core I am versus the type of audience, being peers or critics. So in case that's blowing your mind or just completely confusing you, what have we got here? Critics and peers. These people, when they analysed Hollywood, these sociologists, they discovered that the consecration, a lovely word for getting your laurels, getting attention, saying, hey, watch this film. The consecration was different for whether it was given by peers, your other filmmakers, or critics. Let's move on, see where we go. So, our findings reveal that cultural producers who are core members enjoy disproportionately higher esteem from peer audiences. Whoop-de-doo, we all know that, but here it is in a sociological perspective. If you're cool, and everyone gives you the awards. You keep being cool, you keep being known and noticed and all of that, whether that's Hollywood, Oscars, or whether it's indie festival things, or whether it's genres. If you're in the crowd, you're in the crowd, you will keep getting the consecration from your peers, from the people who know you. Critics, on the other hand, critics aren't swayed by it. Critics are more interested perhaps in the peripherals. So this is good, this is good, this is good. As an indie film director, we can get critics. This is great. We want critical because critics will like what you're doing. A critic, if I can find one, more on that soon, but if I can find the critic, wouldn't they like this branding? Oh, experimental film director. Oh, doing something weird. Oh, what a terrible film. It's really hard to watch. But actually, no, it's being done deliberately. So maybe this is interesting. I like interesting. It's something different. The topics are different. So all of that is good for a critic. So I said more on it later. Let's do it now. Where the hell are the critics? Where are they for indie films? Where are those bloggers? Answers below, please. Answers, please get in touch. I'm trying to think. Okay, so there are lists you can buy for 100 to 200 to 300 of bloggers and well, podcasters involved in film. And maybe I should be going and getting them. I won't reference them now because I'll use this podcast as a way of doing all that and doing it as an actual podcast now. So where do we find the critics? Because the critics are going to like us on the outskirts. If you're in the core, if you're already doing well, whether the core is an indie core or a theme core, a specialist core, they're going to like you. Get in the core and people will like you and consecrate you more. We all kind of know that. You're in the in crowd, you're in the in crowd. It's a sociological function of core-periphery. But we could use periphery. Now, we're all periphery here in the UK. Potentially, aren't we? Depending on how you look at it. We're all periphery to the Hollywood. Of course, Hollywood's all breaking apart and everyone in the rest of the states are now periphery to Los Angeles, and it's all getting pulled out of Los Angeles and that kind of thing. So, you know, you can read that in different ways, but there's one reading of it, core-periphery. So you see how this sociological term, developed by Pierre Bourdieu, not Cattani, Ferriani and Allison, but they're applying it to Hollywood. They're taking this model of groups of people in a field, a cultural field, and looking at Hollywood and going, yeah, it's all core-periphery. And in core-periphery, critics like the periphery, peers like the core. So when you look at a festival, I'm kind of, well, what's that about then? What's that about with the film festival? Are they core or periphery? As we send into the festival, are we thinking core and periphery? Is that what the training's about for a festival? That kind of research your festival, send it to the right ones? Because is that basically core? It used to be called niche, didn't it? You know, but we've got a problem because we haven't got enough critics. They would like our periphery, but I don't think we've got critics. Okay, let's move on. Let's have a look at who consecrates. we have peer audiences and critic audiences. So your peer audiences are people like the Oscars, the Academy of Motion Picture and Arts, Directors Guild of America, the Screen Actors Guilds, all these guilds, Art Directors Guild, American Society of Cinematographers, the ASC, American Cinema Editors, ACE. You see those things a lot. And further in America, let's compare that to the critics. So we've got the Oscars and the guilds as peer audiences. Who else is consecrating? The critics, New York Film Critics Circle, National Society of Film Critics, Los Angeles Film Critics Association, and the Boston Society of Film Critics. Now, those are the ones that these academics discovered and looked at. And the reason they're doing this is because of research methodologies. You could say, oh, well, look, Mal, look, experimental movie director, not all consecration is the award. Hello, my mate said it's good. This art movement said it's good. It was exhibited here and they all liked it. Yeah, absolutely fine. Consecration is lots of different things. The reason they're focusing on these awards is for a research methodology of focus, of counting. You can count the awards. So it is a type of consecration and you can count the awards. It may well be as you go into, if you get the article, you'll see that there's a lot of networking involved in one film production to another film production. So that changes things as well in terms of consecration, where your peers are, etc. And that's kind of what operates as you get one job, then move on to the next job and on to the next job. So it's all of that's part of it. Those were American, these researchers, as I say, looking at Hollywood. So who consecrates peer audiences in Britain? I would go BAFTA, then there's BAFTA Scotland, BAFTA Cymru, British Independent Film Awards, and National Film Awards, UK. Critics, so I'm reading here off my screen, London Film Critics Circle, Film Critics Association, Evening Standard British Film Awards, UK Film Review Awards. That last one seems the most independent, and having done this article, I'm sort of thumbs up for them, for the UK Film Review Awards, and I will maybe cough up and try and get some film reviews in that. I think I did, and it didn't get a very good review. Didn't even supply me a quote. You know, you get something like, you've sort of missed the point on some things, but fair enough. And yeah, have to agree. Who are you writing for? General audience rather than my niche audience. All of those things come in with critics, don't they? That's why it's so valuable that we have some. I haven't got any. You know, if you're interested in setting up a Cahiers du Cinema for Britain in 2026, get in touch. I'd love to write for that. You know, just something that somehow talks about film in a much more expansive way of potential. It's all about, I don't know, it's all about Mark Kermode, isn't it? It was great, enjoyable, amazing hair, and good and proper, but it is aimed at these big movie bucks, and I'm into the little movie bucks, the little changes that might make film and cinema fresh and alive in 20 to 50 years' time, enable cinema to survive the vertical formats, enable cinema to survive the second screens, the little screens, all of that thing. And also, of course, survive cinemas and theatres and all those kind of ideas of exhibition itself under threat as we have our home cinema places. But yeah, film festivals, hey. So we've got core-periphery. Let's try and summarise so far. We've got a core-periphery, in the in crowd, on the outside crowd. So if you're a film festival and you see and look and examine, these are the kind of things that go on, these are the sort of directors, this is the level of directing that goes on, this is the level of production in this festival, then you're either in that core or your periphery. You'll have more chance if you're core. Because a film festival is essentially done by peers, isn't it? Remember that peers like the core, critics like the periphery. So critics are looking for the next big thing. Critics are looking for something on the outside. Critics have that kind of they want to spot and discover and make a name for themselves, and they want to be interested. Partly, sure, there's a lot of bloggers, you have to review the latest movies and the latest indie successes and the things that everyone's talking about. Especially if you're running a successful blog. I've been in which Rain Dance. I've been on that a couple of times, doing articles on my movies and my approaches. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. It's a core thing. It's a top 10 global blog site for articles and information. And of course, has the wonderful Rain Dance Festival. And that seems a good target for me. I should submit again, I guess. I didn't get in with the last one. I thought I would have had with my Lady Gag and the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis. I thought, they'll go for this. But I'm periphery. I'm not core enough for Rain Dance. I don't go on the courses. You know that thing? It sounds like I'm slagging off Rain Dance. I'm not at all. Sorry to Rain Dance. It sounds like I'm being critical. It's a critique, I suppose. I'm analysing what goes on and how we feel as filmmakers. But it seems a good thing. That sense of, what am I doing here? Searching for laurels, trying to get in on the in crowd. Yes, I am. Trying to get in on the in crowd because that's how the sociology works, according to this research. And Pierre Bourdieu, I mean, this guy, born 1930, died, I think 2002, something like that. He, phenomenal sociologist, huge, changed all sorts of things about how we look at society and how we get the most from these situations. So this whole cultural production, we are cultural producers. Pierre Bourdieu was really into that. So, I've just never heard it. I've just never heard it mentioned or brought to bear to film festivals. And this looking for laurels thing that we feel, because psychologically it's horrendous, isn't it? We feel this sort of awful, well, I do anyway, this awful kind of, this is tricky, this is difficult. Why do I need all this accolades? And, and it's not just me, people who know me and like me enjoy the film that they're in getting an accolade. We all do. And I often explain, well, yeah, it's great. Some of them I really do like. Italy, there's some Italian festivals seem to like what I do. And it's like, yeah, well, it is neorealist in many senses. I think their audiences would understand what I'm doing or just relate to it quicker than a British audience, which has got to go through the Hollywood filter of like, well, what's happening here thing, because there's not so many. But if you get a room full of people who know films, it's good fun. But yeah, I'm not core enough in my own city to, mind you, that's part of a different problem, but maybe it's relevant. I'm not core enough to have my films shown at the local art house cinema group that get public funding from BFI and the rest of it to screen art films. Well done, good audiences. So can my film support do a double bill? Because that's what they did. That's what Richard Linklater did in Seattle, and that the people in charge of screening the movies were also the filmmakers, whereas here in Hull, the people in charge of screening the movies don't make films. They're film fans and film art fans, art film, European sort of cinema fans. Great, good. But they don't let me in, so I'm not core enough to get in terms of peers. Ooh, they're critics. So if they're critics, see, here's a film festival, critics or peer. Probably a mixture, isn't it, on the board? But maybe that's a thing that we can analyse a festival and go, is that critics or peers? Because peers like the external. Is this what's the problem with Sundance? That over the years it's become core. So now it's embedded with the core. When it started, it was all about the periphery and the film's external. And over 20, 25 odd years of success, it becomes more and more core embedded and core focused. So the films are getting bigger and bigger budgets and are what we wouldn't really recognise as independent. Okay, let's have a look at my slides. Oh yeah, Tarantino, right, everybody wake up. So notably, Reservoir Dogs received no recognition from the Academy, the guilds, or any other purely peer-based audience. So it might be tempting to regard Tarantino's success as unique. In fact, it is highly instructive of how peripheral players can succeed by eliciting support from one homologous audience within a cultural field. So it's kind of saying, yeah, Tarantino didn't get anything. Didn't get anything. It was critics who said, hey, look at this, because their peers ignored him. You know, you see that anger from Tarantino that he's not posh enough, he's not academic. That I'm trying to, you know, ramp up the academic thing. Hey, take me seriously. Tarantino didn't have that. It was more the street level, I'm doing what people want education. So it didn't really happen. It didn't really happen because it was the critics who got into it, because this was something from the outside, and the outside then meant not a studio production. So that whole sense of independent was periphery as long as it wasn't a studio. Whether it's the same genre, the same tricks, the same approaches, the same filmmaking methods, all the rest of it, not part of core periphery, according to the critics. So they went for it. The peers ignored it. Here's another one. When peer organisations bestow accolades, they favour members in the core. Yeah, I've done that. When critic organisations bestow accolades, they don't really favour core. They're likely to favour the other ones. So yeah, there we go. That's that. I've already said that. So again, film festivals. Why do we keep going for the accolades? What is that? Am I some shallow, vain person who wants, pretends to be doing some important art, but really I just want some laurels and some vain attention? And I think a lot of directors feel that. I think a lot of artists of all kinds will feel that sense. And the problem is, all the social media tells us we have to. The social media tells us we have to get our niche audience. We have to niche down, find out who our audience is, and move towards being a core. Isn't it? Getting your audience. And then from that core, you then become a periphery of something else, and then maybe critics can pay attention if you've got your core embedded thing. So your peers are going to like it. And isn't that what we have? I spent a long time going, I don't want filmmakers as audience. They're not my audience. What am I doing? If you didn't recognise that feeling, what's the, many posts on, look, don't bother getting filmmakers to follow you. They're not your audience. After a few years of that idea, I'm thinking, yes, they are. Again, though, that suits this whole thing with the whole podcasting, but yes, they are. They are the audience. And maybe they're the audience for musicians and bands these days. Other musicians and bands, it's all that is the real thing. And maybe it is for the filmmakers, for yourselves. So I'm just accepting that. I go, yeah, they are the audience. And they're an audience of peers. And if I can be in the core by making a blog, or you make a blog and I can be friends with you, your blog can be better. But if I'm friends with you and get a mention, then that's good. It kind of links me in the core a bit. Then maybe the festival then goes, oh, they're a core thing. And because we're peers, we like core members because we want to move from the periphery into the core. Do we? Yeah. Because we don't have choice from the critics. We do not have an independent, experimental movie critical situation going on. If you look at art, plenty of critical things, plenty of blogs, plenty of reviews, magazines, fanzines, zines of all sorts. We don't have a zine for the kind of movie I'm thinking about, but maybe we will. Hey, if you want to be involved, get in touch. Let's give it a go. Let's get a grant. We'll make more money from that than actually making films. KA do cinema, it worked. What are we saying? Is there something even worth saying? But basically for me, hang on, just a context. We've got a digital age here. We don't have to be making movies with tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of millions of pounds. That ain't the thing now. We can make movies with a phone. We can express cinema in hundreds of different ways. We can tell stories that were never told before. We can share experiences, share worlds. We can do all kinds of things. We can represent all different audiences, because the audiences do need representing and then showing to each other. The audiences are the core and periphery. I just keep saying core and periphery, but it does make an awful lot of sense. It's okay, it's natural to want to be in the core, to want to be in the in crowd. And as part of a filmmaking process, I think this is really, really kind of valuable information. But I would not your fault is what I'm saying. Not my fault, not your fault. It's just the way sociology, it's the way these academics tell us it is. It's core and periphery. And core likes peers. Peers like core. Critics like periphery. Periphery likes critics. Where are you, critics? Where is a critical mass? So your filmmakers kind of end up with music magazines, don't we? We end up with going to art. I follow a lot of art. I make films and movies about art, but you want in there, but the art won't talk. You know, the Arts Council historically has never, in the UK, Arts Council has never funded film. That's for the BFI and their things, which doesn't fund film either. But unless you do film as art. So a film where you're scratching the actual film and you're making an aesthetic piece, an art piece, a post-structuralist piece, pulling apart the nature of film and turning it into art like you'd scrape paint and do this. And you're just working in time-based media. My first degree was time-based media, fine art, time-based media. So I understand that approach and great fondness and hatred for it at the same time. Or suspicious and loving it. And when you see that kind of work like live art, I would go and see it as a filmmaker. Live art and experimental art and film as art, things like the London Filmmakers Cooperative. Wonderful organisation, been going since the 60s, massive impact. And still there. It's not really a home. I'm experimental movies. I want feature films, but I want them to be doing something, trying something out here. Making something a bit different, because that's my only chance. I'm not in the core, but I am in the periphery, so I can just hang about and do my thing. And because of the digital age, I can make what I want, and so can everybody else make what you want. So as we bring some credibility to it, some consecration, bring consecration to the movies made by graffiti artists tonight on the streets of Glasgow. Make consecration for them as they cut and move and capture the skateboards. Consecrate them and then let them speak and let the local youth centre get involved with what they're doing and produce stories and scenarios and characters that come out of that, and then make it 1 hour, 20 minutes long, and we can all consecrate it. And if there is that available, I just think there'll be more films available that are better. And crikey, you know, the mainstream can pay. BFI should be doing this, but BFI don't. BFI likes to draw people into its core. It's all about the core. We'll add some more people to the core. Fuck the periphery. Okay, what we got? So, a rich and vibrant tradition building on Bourdieu's pioneering insights, treat cultural producers engaged in an ongoing struggle. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. This is sociology. We are engaged in an ongoing struggle to secure notoriety, prestige, and esteem from colleagues. Notoriety, prestige, and esteem from colleagues. In this struggle to define what counts as culturally legitimate, the social audiences that control access to symbolic and material resources play a crucial role. So it's about the cultural consecration. It can be viewed as the most definitive form of cultural legitimation. By conferring honours, awards and prizes, cultural consecration, separates individuals and their achievements that are worthy of admiration and respect, separates them from those that aren't. So giving these awards, you know, I'm not even here saying, can we have some more awards, but maybe we should. Maybe some awards for critics would be good. Some awards for, are there awards for film podcasts? Because some beautiful film podcasts that really, really help. You know, either they're doing great kit analysis or they're doing good filmmaking experience or they're just talking honestly. you know, at some point, yeah, that'll be a thing. I'll review my favourites that I do. And I've already looked because I'm already here thinking I've got something different that isn't here yet. But wouldn't that be good? That cultural consecration? Is that the film festival? Are we after cultural consecration and thinking that film festivals give us that? The laurels, they give us cultural consecration. I can't deny it. They say semi-finalist, finalist, winner, best director, best documentary. That's a win, and it's got laurels. It's like, who else has laurels? It's just a film. Is it just the film business that has laurels? I don't know. But immediately you put that as a graphic on a screen. Everyone knows what that means. You won an award. It's like, whoop-de-doo. Everybody knows what that means. You have been consecrated. And we love it. And we love it because it kind of puts us in the core, and we want to stay in the core and expect to be in the core. That doesn't necessarily happen, but I'm only thinking now maybe that's where I've gone wrong. Well, you get the film festival, ramp it up. That's why they say, like, get involved, turn up to the festival, and get involved and be in that core, because this is your chance to be in the core. And being in that core will consolidate periphery in another field. So being in the core of, say, mental health dramas, I don't think there is such a core, but if there was on a couple of my movies, you think, yeah, I'll turn up, I'll go into that core, then that consolidates my periphery as general low to no budget production, feature film production in the UK. So, core periphery analysis. Okay, what else we got? Part 2. Not your fault, not my fault. Part 2. Let's have a look. So, this is from a different paper. In fact, this is a core periphery perspective on individual creative performance, social networks, and cinematic achievements in Hollywood. So this is by the same people, minus Paul, Genoa Cattini, Simone Ferriani. Thank you very much for your work, for your counting, for your analysis, for your bringing attention of this sociological model to Hollywood. And they're basically saying, how do the social networks and achievements, the occurrence of a creative act originates from the interrelationship between the following 3 systems. So stay on board. It might be a bit wrong, but look, this is important. The individual, the field, and the domain. That's what creativity functions in. The occurrence of a creative act originates from the interrelationship between the individual, that's you, the field, that's the rest of us or them, and the domain, i.e. the rules and practices, i.e. filmmaking. So that's our thing, Now, who's this quote by? This is, oh my word, how do you pronounce this? Csikszentmihalyi. Now, he is the guy that did flow. Have you heard of flow theory? If not, it's very good. It's very interesting. Flow theory is about just trying to get artists into the flow, actors into the flow, film directors into the flow. It's when you have the balance between being up for the tasks skills-wise and it being a big challenge. If it's too much of a challenge, you can't do it, you're panicking, you're not in the flow. If it's not enough challenge, you can't do it, you're bored, you're not in the flow. The flow is this, he's a psychologist, this Csikszentmihalyi. Oops. A PC went down just before recording this podcast, so everything's a bit skew if I've had to move things around, and I'm going to have to purchase some different kit and just simplify it all a bit. Look, Csikszentmihalyi, psychologist looking at creative. So it's a very common thing if you haven't heard. Oh, for goodness sake. Why is it suddenly... It's going to get worse. Hang on. Definitely having enough of this. Okay, so that'll do. Welcome. You see a bit more of the old psychedelic shack, because that's where it's at. My studio edit suite, production centre, and all that kind of thing. Yeah, where was I? Chick sent me high. Flow. Flow is great. It really does explain how you can have a good day and a bad day. Okay, so he's saying creativity. This is a man, a psychologist who knows about creativity, studied it. He's saying it's the individual versus the field, the rest of the people around you within that practice. So you've got the idea of what is filmmaking. Now in Hollywood, filmmakers is a certain thing. You kind of shift that to what is filmmaking. Beautiful, let's change the domain. And then who's in that field? Who are the people practicing? Who are these others working in it? And then there's you. So you work that between it, and there's your film. Now I think, if you're a painter or a novelist, or, you wouldn't. Sorry, has everything gone off? Okay, goodness knows how long this is. These are like long, stupid lectures. I will get better. I'm only on to number 5. Wait, I've got number 50. I'll hopefully improve in some way. So the individual. So as filmmakers, I think this is strong. A bit like being in a band and a musician, isn't it? They're working within a very fast-acting. Singles are coming out, albums are coming out. People are going to gigs. A new act is out, and people are paying attention, and the video's out, and everyone's bouncing off each other. And then they've all sort of bounced off into their own cores, their own peripheries and cores, and the audiences are over here being served by billionaire arms funding Spotify's, rather than actual us again. But there used to be in my days punk, new wave, different kind of thing. I'd love a new wave of cinema, essentially. That's been done before. A punk. Anyway, it's all that game, isn't it? The periphery coming in. So yeah, that's the thing. So it's interesting, isn't it? The individual, the field. The thrust of the theory, creativity, stems from the interplay between the individual act and the enabling social context that decides whether or not to endorse and legitimate such an act. Now, the thing there, look, the thrust of this theory, everything that's been said so far, is quite big for us. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. The interplay between the individual, me doing my thing, and the enabling social context, core, periphery, peer audiences, critic audiences, all of that interplay, that decides whether or not to endorse what I'm doing. It ain't just me. It's not my fault. It's part of the game. It is part of the game. When I read this, when I say this, it's part of the game. That thing that, now you got to do social media. Oh, you're in a band, now you got to do social media. You got to develop your audience, got to get your niche audience, a filmmaker. Yes, it's part of the game. But maybe what I'm saying today, I need to talk to those people who know more about the sociology, the core periphery. How do we do it as filmmakers? Where is this peer critical? I don't know critics. I can't talk to them. I'm not getting any critical response to my movies. I'm not getting an audience to my movies, but I'm not getting a critical response that could point people to my audiences. Why not? Is no one reading the critical? They do with bands. There are people and organizations and magazines and journalists and bloggers that keep a focus, that consecrate. We've left it to film festivals to consecrate. And film festivals, I was going to say they pop up once a year, and that could be quite disparaging of the ones every month, but maybe that's the thing. I've got one myself. I've had a short film festival. Won't talk about that today, but I've got one at the moment, the No Crew Film Festival, but it's not worked. It's not there. I'm not charging any money for people, and something like this would be part of this. Is kind of morphed into this. But I think there should be a film festival for people who are making films with no crew. Very simple idea. I just need to get on with it, but everything else gets in the way, and it's hard even to develop an audience or a thing for that. And maybe I spread myself too thin on some of the projects, but maybe also it's part of core periphery, wanting to hook up there isn't a music press equivalent for me to go to. Maybe there isn't a music press anymore either. Maybe it's part of the problem. The media, it doesn't have periphery. It's only got core. That can't be true though. Come on, everybody, write in. Tell me where the critics are for experimental movies, for low to no budget movies. Where are the critics? Where do we get in? Is it Rain Dance? The festivals don't act as critics. This is what I was thinking with the No Crew Film Festival. It's a platform. Festivals to me could be platforms. Platforms equals zines. Platforms is media programming. Platforms is like, what's that called? Little White Lies. Do they have a festival as well? But very, very good. Yeah. Maybe I do need to just bite the bullet, establish who those people are, and then throw myself at them, throw my products at them, because the thrust of the theory, the creativity stems from the interplay between the individual act and the enabling social context. So what am I doing as a film director, looking for laurels after I've made the thing? No, forget it now, forget it. You are making the film within its social context, and the social context is core-periphery. So look at where you're heading, whether you're core, whether you're periphery, who's with you, who's the field, aim purposefully. Okay, what else we got? Yeah. All right, here's a picture for those seeing it. Here's a picture of the core periphery. I haven't shown it till now because it's like, let's see what the ideas are. But in this picture, for those of you just listening, we've got a lot of dots on the page with lines. And there's more dots in the middle. And in the middle, the dots are darker shaded, and on the outside, they're grey. On the outside, they're further apart. On the inside, they're closer together. So it's a bunch of dot, like a swarm of bees. And in the middle, there's a lot of them all connected up with lots of connections. And on the outside, there's fewer connections, and they're further and further apart. And this is who we are in the core and periphery. So a very kind of straightforward thing. Let's have a look at this Pierre Bourdieu. Yeah, 1930 to 2002. Very nice. Buried in Père Lachaise Cemetery, along with Jim Morrison, of course, from The Doors. Let's see what else. So let's look at these core aspects of the in-crowd. Core periphery is basically the in-crowd thing. So as a field, the social arena of struggle, as we called it, and you can analyse that, and everyone's got a dense central core and then a sparse peripheral margin. What else? Capital accumulation and power. The ones in the middle have all the power. They are more connected. They're a rich club, shows their dominance. The outside, the periphery, scattered in Hull and Woodmansea and Dunswell and Wetwang. Peripheral dependency. Power relational models extend this to show periphery is often dependent on the core. Great. Do we have to be? If we had our own critics, our own festivals, good God. Well, we do, don't we? All the festivals are our festivals. But we need more critics. But we're dependent on that core, the rain dance, the sun dance, the rain dance, the dozen key film festivals, the 100 top film festivals, the 500 noteworthy film festivals. After that, whatever, we're massively periphery, everyone making an effort and having a localized or a regionalized impact that is great. I don't know. I'm no expert on the festival thing at all, and good on them. Yeah, I've done a couple. It's a thankless task at times. But it must be a good thing as well. And for me, yes, they move into platforms and move into that critical thing, and they can be ongoing. Then the monthly ones are maybe the ones to to take seriously. Social capital as networks. Bourdieu, durable network of more or less institutionalized relationships. Core members are at the center of these networks. Yeah, so like Sundance, the core networks, all of Sundance is periphery. Then it starts developing its own core of people who know each other, who work together. It kind of becomes institutionalized, blah, 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 blah. We all know the story, but this is just the academic theory behind this. If we didn't know, it's Pierre Bourdieu. And marginalization and inequality. Those in the periphery are constrained by a less supportive structure. Oh, don't we know it? We are constrained by it. It's less supportive. BFI don't do us in Britain, really. Does anybody? The music, try the music who claim to review films, but they only review core films. Art doesn't fund us. It only funds artists working with films or whatever, and then the next they're doing live, and the next they'll be doing some painting or some printing or whatever. They don't go, oh, here's filmmakers, yeah, let's support you. And it can lead to feelings of alienation and conflict. Alienation and conflict between core and periphery. That's what it says here. This is part of the being the in crowd, because we don't get support. We haven't got the supportive structure. So yeah, Pierre Bourdieu applied to filmmakers, film directors. Some other quotes by him. The point of my work is to show that culture and education aren't simply hobbies or minor influences. Go on, lad. That's the way. They're not simply hobbies or minor influences. We are hugely important in the affirmation of differences between groups and social classes and in the reproduction of those differences. So it's saying we're massively important to bring the sociology together, to show society within the film thing, within film. So yeah, it's fine in my audience of peers. Let them be peers and let me into a core and see if they like my films. I will push it because we are massively important. That's a wonderful quote for all of us struggling cultural producers, struggling to get, I think. The mind is a metaphor of the world of objects, says Pierre Bourdieu. The mind is a metaphor of the world of objects. That's just close to my heart and reasoning, my cognitive studies of cinema, etc. So it's like, oh, this guy's on my side. Taste classifies, and it classifies the classifier. So an idea of taste. So it's not so much consecration, which seals a taste, doesn't it? But this is the taste, and it classifies. And the person who did the classifying gets classified more. So the Oscars, just think of the Oscars. Yeah, you're all Oscar winners. You're all Oscar winners voting for other Oscar winners. You're all part of that game that no one's interested in. Taste is first and foremost distaste, disgust, and visceral intolerance of the taste of others. No, I don't know what this guy's about, but that's funny, isn't it? Taste is first and foremost. So to have taste, consecration. This is the taste is first and foremost. It's distaste, it's disgust, it's visceral intolerance of other tastes. So taste essentially excludes and puts down all the other tastes. He's a good guy, isn't he? So what have we got here? Filmmaking is cultural production, and Indian low budget and experimental is the periphery. So blah, blah, blah. It's not our fault. We need to get consecration because that's part of the value of our art. We need it. We got to get those laurels. It's sociology. We have to look for the laurels. It's part of being consecrated because it's part of core periphery. It's part of being validated. It's part of the struggle to be validated. It's part of the game of creativity and production. An individual in a field, in the domain of filmmaking, is about getting laurels. It's not your fault. I'm not vain. I need laurels. This is why I need to be at the festivals. I'm trying to move to core, or I'm trying to stay in the periphery of a core. It doesn't matter which, but I need to know and understand what it is. Bourdieu says, given that works of art exist as symbolic objects only if they are known and recognised. What? So all my films, they're not even symbolic objects unless they're known and recognised. All your films are not even symbolic objects of art unless they're recognised, known. So socially instituted as works of art and received by spectators capable of knowing and recognising. So the sociology of art and literature has to take as its object not only the material production but also the symbolic production of the work. So not only the thing but the actual symbolic, metaphorical meaning and consecration and meta-awareness of the work. The production of the value of the work, or which amounts to the same thing, or belief in the value of the work. The production of the value of the work, or which amounts to the same thing, of belief in the value of the work. We have to chase the laurels because that belief in the value of the work is part of the production of the work. It's a sociological aspect of networks, of core and periphery, of sociological fields, and of cultural production, which is not a hobby or minor, but is absolutely essential for discussing and devising and discovering all the social layers of how we all live together. A filmmaker must chase the laurels. Look to your laurels, ladies and gentlemen. Look to your laurels. I added a thing here. I don't know. And cinema especially. So part of the value of our art is the consecration. That's just the way it is. That's the way life is. But cinema's huge, isn't it? Cinema is massive. The economic impact of cinema is phenomenal. The political impact of cinema. And if you think streamers, TV, ads, all that, the media, you're kind of floating there. But maybe those audiences are geared up for huge. Can we gear them up for the small? So when I was thinking this, can we get audience into the small? The local village cinema, of which there are many, BFI's done a pretty good job setting up cinemas. There are many, and why aren't they showing our films? How come there isn't an agency that I can put my film into so that people can see experimental films? And I'm sure there is. I'm just not, I haven't applied into those distributors to. But why wouldn't they? Jesus, is it a political thing or is it just my films aren't actually good enough anyway? But, you'd think, but like in hospitals, there's an NHS sort of cinema circuit of cinema for health because they've recognised that if you've got to stay in hospital and you go see a movie, it's great. But they weren't interested in my movies, even the ones about health. No, we mean movies, proper movies, basically, is what they said. All right, then. But, can we gear an audience for small? And I think, so weird little film festivals, local bijou film festivals, do it, Mal. Stop being a dickhead with your no crew film festival, even if 10 people turn up. What I had before, people turned up. It was a pop-up film festival called Tea Break, and we pop up in cafes, watch a cup of tea and watch a movie. It was nice. Ran it for 5 years, I think, 4 years. 5 years till we got some funding, and then it was like, oh, this is just turgid now and awful, and they wanted us to go bigger and bigger and bigger. But nice little film festival. Appealing. Also verticals. It's appealing because it's small. 2-minute, 90-second thing. Relish the small. So early on, I'm sort of slagging off, can cinema survive? Yeah. It needs the small. It needs second screen. It needs bijou weird film festivals, and it needs these vertical things that are 2 minutes each. Make it all small, because that steals some core. It enables a new core to develop. There's a dispersed, multifaceted cinema is better than a core-periphery thing. It's better for all of us, because we can bring out the critics. We can bring out the critics if there's an audience for all this kind of stuff. Great stuff, vibrant. Where are the magazines that already exist? Yeah. All of that stuff is exciting, isn't it? So thank you, Pierre Bourdieu, for your work, and thank you to these people. I'll have to go back and see who they are. Sorry. Genoa Cattani, Simone Ferriani, and Paul D. Allison for applying Bourdieu's core-periphery to Hollywood. It's great. It's really changed my life and my approach, because it's not my fault and it's not your fault. It's part of the value of what we do is chasing laurels. Bye for now. Bye.